All right, well, hello everyone, and welcome to Rico's. I'm your host, Michael, and okay, so this episode's a little bit late in the week. It's actually being filmed on a Sunday night, pretty late into it. Things have just been pretty crazy with the whole move to the new apartment, which we are now currently in. Um, but I'm gonna make sure to resume our schedule. Hopefully, things have just been hectic, unpacking all the new furniture. There's even gonna be a new piece over there come tomorrow. So it's just been back and forth, but hopefully we'll resume our schedule soon. So clearly we are recording the podcast now, so we have video recording. I don't know if I'm going to keep them on SoundCloud, but I am looking at Google Play or somewhere where you guys can subscribe and get them regularly. But we are going to start doing them on YouTube and maybe do other videos on YouTube too. We'll talk about that more at the end. I have some ideas and different things. But the YouTube channel is going to be called Rico's Podcast, exactly the same as the Facebook group, just podcast at the end. Um, but I'll have links to it in the Facebook group, so don't worry about it. Um, yeah, so today we're going to talk about all of the buzz coming from the big announcement Nintendo did of the Nintendo Switch here. I think it was on Friday or Thursday. And we're going to talk about that, some of the implications, um, and what that means for the state of console gaming currently in 2017. It's an interesting place, with 4K and the PS4 Pro, Xbox S. Everyone's kind of trying to race, but with incremental updates rather than huge releases and things like that. So we're gonna talk about that. We're also gonna talk about video game movies actually, because I just watched the Ratchet and Clank movie. I'm a huge Ratchet and Clank fan. I should say that first, and we'll talk about that more in here in a little bit. But I watched the movie that they made because they decided to make a remake or reboot really of the series for the PS4. And although I've heard good things about the game, the movie was not super well received, it seems. So I watched the movie, and I'll give you guys my thoughts on that. And honestly, we're going to talk about why video game movies all are kind of falling into the same pitfalls, in my opinion. But we'll talk about that more later. So first, let's talk about the Nintendo Switch. So I don't know if you guys saw the trailer. Um, so Nintendo's coming out with this portable console, basically. This console that has an emphasis on portability, mobility, convenience. So you look it up. I'm not going to waste time explaining too much about it. But they came out with a lot to promise. They're like 3 hours of detached battery life with gaming with active use, great next gen motion controllers where you can feel the ice cube. He did this ridiculous ice cube demo I saw part of, but they really did promise a lot. Like it was very it was a big announcement, and they treated it very big. They decided to release a few titles. Obviously, everyone knew Zelda Breath of the Wild was going to be a release title, and it is releasing on day one, March the 3rd or 9th or something like that. Um, but they also announced some other big things, like a new Super Mario game. I feel like they're attempting to break ground in the way they did with Galaxy, in that they're doing like a real world Mario with these like fantastic graphics, and it's really that trailer also looked very good. And they had a few others for some more. At least they felt one-offy games, even though they're going to charge them $60 per. But we'll talk about that in a second. But as far as the actual we are sorry, saying we, um, the Nintendo Switch, but yeah, they really boasted, oh, you can, take it with you. Somebody actually found out that to kind of allow this to happen, it scales back from 1080p on the console to 720 when you detach, which makes sense. Obviously, there's probably lots of reasons why they did that. Battery life probably being one of them. Speaking of the battery life, so let's talk about the battery life. They say 3 hours. I assume it's a lithium battery, lithium based, and for anyone that's had a cell phone more than a year, they know that batteries tend to, especially ones that you can't replace, tend to go south really, really, really quickly. Or anyone that's a laptop, for example. even if charging it, plugging it in, laptop batteries do not last very long, and that is not very promising because there hasn't been. I mean, there's been some innovation in the battery field, since laptops were invented. I mean, anyways, but the point is the sustainability of these things is worrying, especially if you cannot replace the battery. I have not looked at exactly if that's something you can do, but everything I saw made it pretty much seem like that. Granted, you're gonna be like, well, they're gonna release another console, probably by the time the battery ends. Well, we'll talk about the problems with that in a little bit. Anyways, let's see here. So they came out with a nice little list of games, but with Breath of the Wild and Super Mario, I actually already forgot the name. I'm sorry, guys. The new Super Mario game, Odyssey. There you go. Just like Galaxy. So Super Mario Odyssey, they released these two big titles. I think they also hinted at a Fire Emblem game, but without showing any gameplay. The question is this enough? So Nintendo, I feel like their problem for the last couple of consoles have been everyone's been sitting here like, what we like. We like these big characters. We like Metroid. We like Star Fox. We like Mario. You want to give big games. We want a Mario Kart. We want a Super Smash Brothers. When you announce those games, you put so much power behind yourself, and Nintendo kind of worried me by only announcing two. And not only that, but there's rumors about lack of third-party support, and this didn't really feel better. Just because I can play Skyrim, which is an old game at this point, doesn't make me have faith in third-party software being on the Switch. So and I was telling my friends this, my friends who were really excited about the Switch about this. It's really disconcerting that we don't know yet, that we don't know if they're even going to start supporting this, to what extent, and in a age of console exclusives and things like that, they need to either come up with their own big line of exclusives, or they need to start getting third-party publishers fast. So we'll see how that rolls. Obviously, this is so early in the game. People are finally getting their first playthroughs on that, but it's coming out in March. It's crunch time, and if they don't start announcing soon, it is not going to look good for the future of this console. So another big point of controversy was the paid online services. So a la Xbox and PlayStation, they're gonna finish the console paid gaming trifecta in that you can't have full online functionality without paying services, or paying for the services monthly. And as a PC gamer, I this is always I mean, I'm less upset about it than most people, because I feel like it's a at least mildly reasonable request, especially with like a reasonable price. And with PlayStation specifically, they give you a crap ton of free games every couple of months. I don't know if it's been as good, consistently, but I remember my friends on my PS4 first couple months, and they were getting some good when they first announced that program. That is, they started getting some good stuff right off the bat. So that was very impressive. And I think Xbox has a similar thing, but and maybe we'll do a similar thing too. But paying to use the internet is not a positive look for consoles. Excuse me. It is not. It is not a good thing. Granted, I don't think that's going to make or break somebody who's been using consoles for a very long time. It might. It might. That was a big thing for me. I think going into college, I decided, hey, I was going to use the PS3 instead of the Xbox 360 because I didn't have the money for Live. And sure, I don't get Halo, but I wanted to give it a shot. But I feel like that can be a deciding factor for people. And I think it may come into effect here as we maybe witnessed a declining in consoles. Well, Michael, is that ever really going to happen? I don't know. It seems like Xbox is actually kind of trying to merge them themselves. With they're allowing now games to be purchased on the Xbox and now also be played on Windows 10. And they're kind of trying to merge those two stores, which I don't necessarily think is a bad idea, although they are trying to make it exclusive and leave everyone else out, and they're trying to DRM it to a degree, and there are ways that could go badly. But I think that might be the way things go. That is a pretty big market, and I wouldn't be surprised if Sony tried to do some sort of DRM deal where you have to use their, software or their thing to play your games on your computer, but you can. I wouldn't be surprised if they went to that sort of direction. Nintendo, I mean, computers and technology, we're converging really quickly to single device, not single device, but unified device usage. Um, I mean, it's already ridiculous the amount of things you can do with your phone. Like with your Google account, if you have Google set up everywhere, you can do so much. Microsoft's getting in the game with Cortana. You can have Cortana on your phone. You can do a bunch of stuff with your computer and reminders and all of this. My smartwatch. I love technology, but it's already ridiculous the amount of things you can do. I got a new Asus ZenWatch 3 for Christmas, and it's absolutely absurd the things you can do now. So it'll be interesting to see going into the next, let's say, decade. Let's see where consoles end up, especially as maybe hopefully computers can become a little bit more gaming friendly, that it's a lot easier. Steam tried, and Steam Big Picture is, a good step in the right direction, but Steam machines were kind of a failed experiment. Um, and although I would argue building a computer is super easy, and you can even get people to build it for you in order to you, but there's a lot more that can go wrong. A lot of different things that can go wrong that you have to you have to kind of fend for yourself, rather than if something goes wrong with your Xbox, you just take it to the store or whatever, you give it to Microsoft. Granted, it can be more pricey, but I feel like as long as there's a difficulty curve with computers that outweighs the detriments of a console as far as the average consumer, I feel like consoles will stay around. But I think they're going to transform. I don't think consoles are going to completely disappear. I think they're just going to kind of transform, and it's going to be basically computers. They already are computers. They're just running on antiquated motherboards with very neutered graphics. I think once the publishers realize, hey, we can give them actually a decent machine, maybe charge a little bit more, but put our own OS and have it exactly the same, but offer amazing performance. Why the heck wouldn't we do that? The PS4 Pro, we can give them a $500 gaming PC basically wrapped up as a console. I think the company that figures that out first, that they can actually sell this as long as they just develop an OS that's reasonable, or just port their OS. Once they make that bold leap and make it interchangeable, so where you can move out the parts, or there's so many ways. There's a huge market laying there, and I know these big companies they would love that money. So I mean, tell your executive friends that I'm just kidding. But the point is, I really do think there is going to be a change coming in. And that I just looked at one of my notes here. I did mention 4K briefly. So as far as performance goes, it seems like the Switch, they decided to really not go for 4K at all. And that might be a plan some time later, but is that a bad thing though? And this I may have to do another episode on 4K and why I think it's not quite there, or rather it's not worth the price tags it's currently associated with, says the guy who has a 4K TV. But I don't think it's worth the price tags it's associated with yet. I don't think, although 4Play, you can get 4K, Blu-ray players and things like that now, but it's all still. There's a lot of actually interesting videos by Linus Tech Tips about this. That it's still not at the sweet spot, so it's still a bit of a strange place, and especially a console at this gen, at the performance they do, where they would not be able to do that much in 4K. It's probably not a bad thing that they're especially if they want to increase the graphical quality to be a little bit more in line with current consoles. It's probably okay that they don't try to make a jump immediately to 4K. But yeah, I think my big point with the Nintendo Switch, kind of closing out this topic, is this will the games be enough to sell the technology? So the technology is going to be nice. When it comes down to these console games, the main reason I feel like these guys buy these consoles still is because the games, the lineups, the exclusives. I feel like that's still there is the convenience factor, and that might even overtake it a little bit. It still might be on top, but right under that is exclusives. So we will see. We will see with that. Also, the limited scarcity thing is so Nintendo is very strange about that, and I don't really have a lot to say about that one. They've been doing this for a long time, and I remember with the Wii, and I think they maybe even did it with the GameCube because I remember getting a GameCube late on or something like that. But that never made sense to me. But they're really big in tradition in Nintendo. Um, Anyways, moving on. So our second topic: video game movies and why honestly they feel so bland. So I saw the Ratchet and Clank movie on Netflix. It's not bad. You can go watch it, especially if you're a fan of the series. There's a lot of nods to multiple things in the games and uh, universe nods basically and little hints, things like that. Um, but why are these movies being bland? So Ratchet and Clank, that series is notorious for being full of innuendo and just being kind of inappropriate and racy, but also fun and just unique in its humor as far as these animated creatures and this kind of silly plot. It never really took itself that seriously. Very self-referential, lots of breaking the fourth wall. Just enjoyable altogether. So why is this happening? It was a cookie cutter story. It didn't take any risks. It was way too safe. One humanoid character like explicitly dies, as I remember. I think there was some like crewman that got vacuumed out of something, so you could consider that. But they only show one person who's a villain. They only showed one person die. Whereas Ratchet and Clank, it's literally about guns and like ridiculous guns and ridiculous over the top action. And there's one. Granted, they went for the PG-13 and maybe even PG, and so because of that, I feel they ended up with a cookie cutter story, far too safe. They really didn't try to do much with it. And so that kind of bothered me because I'm a fan of the series and I'm used to the original Ratchet and Clank, where Ratchet is not the most savory character, especially not in those first two games. He's a little rough around the edges. So was Clank. I mean, it felt completely different than how I remember that whole story. Granted, they did want to reboot, but that kind of brings me to this point I'm going to kind of get to here. And I feel like this is a common pitfall with these movies, and maybe the reason why video game movies are so unsuccessful. So Warcraft, I also saw that earlier this year. The Warcraft tickets up there. It had similar-ish issues. So, and also made Lothar the main character, but that didn't make sense. It was basically just about the orcs and just here's some human stuff on the side, and we're in Karajan, and there's mage, and they had a similar thing where they dumbed down their existing lore, the existing story they already had. They dumbed it down. They put a bunch of focus on arbitrary character. Well, not arbitrary. They're already the main characters of the story, but they changed the focus around in strange ways, and they also made it way safer to a degree. I would argue, especially knowing that lore, I would argue that they still made it way safer than it originally is. Granted, not as much as Ratchet and Clank. It is not as drastic a thing. But for example, spoilers on Warcraft. Sorry, Khadgar. He's like a mage in the story, and he's like fighting another mage and trying to banish a demon out of him. In uh, the lore, in the video game lore, he gets turned super old permanently. And it's like this big, he gets kind of in kind of a sacrificial way. He has to do this, and he takes on this sacrifice. In the movie, they just kind of, I don't even know if they hinted at it. They just kind of let it go. I think, they had him like standing in the pool, and it was dumb. Anyways, they had a similar issue where they weren't taking risk, or so the final fight at the end, they didn't have, or well, they didn't use Ogrim Doomhammer enough, so it didn't really make sense for them to even use him at the end. But they didn't decide to even make that risk of, oh, he kind of betrayed them, and now he's gonna fight, Doomhammer. Instead, they just had, or not Doomhammer, sorry, Blackhand. I'm sorry, Doomhammer is not gonna fight Doomhammer. That's kind of confusing. Lothar was ended up fighting Blackhand, and they had like a 10-second fight. What? And Garona backstabs the king in the original lore. She straight up murders him to keep peace. He doesn't go, "Oh, hey, you need to kill me so that you're a hero to that." That is not how it went down, man. That's not how it went down. Anyways, Warcraft had similar issues where they had a lore and they decided to play it safe and also make really weird edits, and it just didn't work out for them. So why does this keep happening? And I haven't seen Assassin's Creed, but I maybe should to further this point. And from the ratings I've seen, it's probably another watered down do-over. But if you have an established lore and it works and it's really popular, and you want to make a movie about it, just adapt it. Just make changes that you cannot do on screen in a short amount of time. If whether it be explanation or introducing a new character or something like that, although you have to be careful about that kind of stuff, or tell a new story in the lore. There's a thought. That's crazy. Who would ever do that? That sounds like a horror. Come on, guys. Come on, Hollywood. I'm looking at you. I looked up the most successful video game movies, and it's a sad list. None of them are successful. Warcraft is gross to the most, and it was still considered like they did okay. They did an okay job. They made the money that they needed to do. But come on. So what do we do about this? What's the solution? Well, besides, as I've suggested, maybe telling a new story in the lore, I think animated shorts are a sweet spot that have been utilized by some. Granted, you could expand that to a new movie. Animated in general, especially when you have a bunch of CGI, so you don't have to put a massive budget on it, and you don't have to get all these producers in a room and make sure all them are happy. An animated movie, where you don't have to even have super ridiculous effects, but you have to tell a compelling story. You know, that might be something to do. More cinematic games in general, if you just have more story to tell, or Telltale style games. I'm not a huge fan of those myself, but maybe that would be the direction you need to take. Rather than doing a Minecraft movie, they did a Minecraft, Telltale games, because they wanted that a story they wanted to tell, and I think it worked out for them. It was really popular. That might be how you do it. But the problem is, you do it like now. Now there's this huge stigma on it. Doing a video game movie, and it all started with Final Fantasy Spirits Within, which was just a bad movie. Like, I don't even know what to say about that one. That was just rough. I guess the only good video game movie I can think of is Advent Children, Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, and that was super popular in Japan. It didn't get like a huge release here, but you can see it on Netflix. So if you're a Final Fantasy VII fan and you have not seen Advent Children, congratulations! I just made your night. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see as inevitably more and more video game movies are made. Just don't do an Uncharted movie, Hollywood. Leave the most cinematic and beautiful franchise alone. No, but all joking aside, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I have faith. We'll have a good video game movie sometime. It's gonna happen. Big blockbuster movie. Well, maybe blockbuster's the issue, as I alluded to earlier. Anyways, so that's basically our episode for the night. So what's next? Streaming, perhaps. Streaming, because I do like to play video games, as evidenced by some of the conversations we've had. Maybe some Let's Play kind of things as I play around. So I've been playing Astroneer, and I was thinking about doing a topic on that today. but and maybe later this week. But maybe things like that. But anyways, you can find us at facebook.com/Rico's Podcast. Please come follow. Get to the YouTube channel from there, also called Rico's Podcast. I'm pretty sure you can get to it directly like that. Uh, I'll put a link, I'm sure, in the video when I post it to Facebook. But you can follow me on Twitter directly at Michael J. Millen. And hopefully we'll be on Google Play pretty soon. Next time we'll be a bit more organized. You see some of my ridiculous Legos I'm going to put up. I'm excited about that, so you guys can see that. But until next time, take it easy. All right.